Refining depth cues with reverbs. That's the topic of today. In the previous video, I talked about how to create distance with the direct to reverb ratio, and we talked about the critical distance. And now we're going to go just a step further. First of all, hello dear audio wizards and fellow music makers, and let me address one little thing that has emerged from comments on YouTube and on my social medias about my previous video. Some people argued about the fact that reverb and the dry to reverb ratio is not the only thing that plays a role in the sense, in the perception of distance. And this is totally valid. I'm talking here and in this series first only about reverb and how to use reverb for that. Transient designers, compressors, clippers can play a sense of distance. EQs and rolling of the highs play a sense of distance. And obviously the relative loudness of different sound sources inside a mix play a role as well. In our case, I'm just analyzing one single track at a time, one single sound source, and how the reverb impacts that distance. Why? Because this, in my opinion, is the strongest cue, and we will move forward step by step, and we will see how to refine the reverb today to enhance that sense of distance. And once you have all that, then you have to blend all the sound sources together in order to have a really three-dimensional mix, the three-dimensional sound track. All right, so the things we're going to talk about today are the additional markers of depth. What are those markers? I'm going to first list them, and then we're going to see practical examples of that. First of the markers is the early to late reverb ratio. Of course, if you have more early reflections, you are closer in a very small room. So if you're in a very small room, you can be far away from a sound source. If you have more late reflections, you can be in a bigger room, you can be more in the diffuse field, and so you have potentially a bigger distance. Second aspect is the brightness of the reverb, of course the brightness of the sound source as well. And so to step back about not thinking about processes, but just about real world, because if you want to design a tangible reverb, you have to understand real world. What's happening in real world is that the air is filtering the high frequencies. The air is a viscous material. The air molecules, they have to move, and they have also some inertia. To get them moving, they take out some energy, and what is getting absorbed first are the high frequency content. An easy example is when you are at a festival far away from the stage, you hear only the low frequency content, even if you are aligned with the speaker, because the dispersion plays a role here as well. But let's not digress too much. So rolling off the highs with a very gentle, like 6 decibel per octave or even lighter filter, gives a sense of depth and can place a sound and or the reverb further away. Second aspect. Third aspect is the pre-delay. What is pre-delay? And in fact, there's not one, but there are two pre-delays, but we don't talk about it so often. The pre-delay, in the most basic sense, is the time it takes when the signal enters the reverb before the reverb starts to kick in. It's just a buffer. Now there are some plugins where you have pre-delay that is pre-early reflections, and some where the pre-delay is also pre-late reflections. Most of the plugins implement the pre-delay being pre-early reflections, and then some plugins also allow you to feed the late reflections, the diffuse network, with the early reflections. Forget about that for a moment. Why would you like to delay a sound in time before the reverb kicks in? There are some practical, some mixing approaches, like for example, helping to keep the clarity on the transients. You don't want the shimmer and all the blurriness of the reverb to kick in immediately on the vocal take, for example, to keep the clarity and the integrity of the speech. And so adding a little bit of pre-delay unlinks the reverb from the dry sound, and it allows for that extra clarity. But that's a more practical mixing approach. I want to talk about what happens in a real physical world. What happens in a room, and how is pre-delay used to create that sense of depth. Don't worry, we're going to see practical examples in a little bit, but I just want to frame the content of today's video. Again, we have to think real physical world. What happens when a sound source is in a big room and the sound source is close to you? The sound travels from the source to your ears very fast and then bounces back to some walls that could be very far away before the reverb, before the first reflections hit you back. It means that if the sound source is close to you, you have a big pre-delay because there's a big time for the sound to travel through that room before the reverb claps back. Long pre-delay, source close to you. If you are in a big room but the sound source is far away from you, the sound source will play its sound, the sound will travel to you, but at the same time will hit also some other walls. And so the difference in time between the direct sound and the reverb will be very small. So big room, no pre-delay, sound far away. What happens in a small room? In a small room, you can't barely have any pre-delay because the sound source can't be that far from you, and the time it will take for the sound to reach your ears, being directly or through the reflections, will be pretty much the same. So pre-delay is a way, while increasing it to make the sound closer to you, but it's to some extent, and it has always to be taken in consideration with the overall size of the room. Otherwise, you are creating unrealistic reverbs. Same goes for the top-end filtering. If you are in a small room, you can't have something that is that far away. The maths are not matching. It's not working. Lastly, the crest factor plays a role, and we'll see that actually taming the transients that you can do either with some filtering and removing high frequency content, but also with using a limiter or a clipper before sending the sound to a reverb, is a last tool that plays also in that perception of proximity. Enough for this introduction. Let's dive into the juicy part. Let's see in the DAW and let's listen to how this all translates. So here we are inside Ableton, and I'm starting these examples with Ableton stock reverb. I thought it was interesting to start with the basics. All right, so let's send my voice to some reverb. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. And now, while playing this, I will not change the dry-wet, so we keep the same ratio, and so the same main perceptual distance, right? What happens now if I remove all the early reflections? Here again, using a small recording of my own, and the opposite, what happens if I remove all the diffuse network? Here again, using a small recording of my own voice, you feel the difference into the proximity we have. So having a very strong, I could even put the reverb on as an insert, full wet. So full wet only early reflections. I mean, not only, but because on this one I can't totally kill the diffuse network, but very low, minus 30 decibels of the diffuse, and I will put the early at 6. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the... We feel we are in a medium room. It's not a crazy big room. Here again, using a small... But it's not a very tiny room. Here again, using a small recording of... Okay, so we are in medium room. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice. We have actually a problem because we hear too much of the diffuse to be really like in just the room, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I could reduce the decay so we don't hear any diffuse. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Okay, now let me, even with a very short decay, let me increase the diffuse network. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. You feel how this changes a lot? Let's increase the decay a little bit. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small... The early to late reflections is that extra balance. And so I would say for example, starting with something very big and long, only reverb. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Now I'll bring some dry. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of... Now you start to feel the dissociation between the early and the late. Why? Because of course when I have full wet, I don't enjoy the pre-delay. Now that I have some dry wet, I start to enjoy the feeling of the pre-delay. So without any pre-delay, or the shortest possible. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cues. Now let me increase the pre-delay. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand. You still have now the proximity of the voice thanks to the pre-delay. Here again, using with no pre-delay. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to. So now, taking the opposite example, let's try to make a room very small. Let's reduce a bit the decay, no diffuse and only reflections. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth. Now let's increase the pre-delay. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice. And this starts to feel weird. Why? Because now we have some slap back that is more happening, for example, when you are outside in a street, because you have some delay between the buildings, but there is no reverb. And here the tail is still too much. And by the way, this is a tool to create some outdoor feeling I'm going to talk later about, is using some delay before entering a reverb. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the. This is not realistic at all, right? While here again, using a small recording of my own voice, this works. But having a big size. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth. This works, right? Now I want to make a funny exercise with this reverb. And we're gonna make it's a broad move. It's not gonna be really refined and fine-tuned, but it's just to give you that sense, right? I'm gonna map several parameters. I'm gonna map the dry wet to this, and this will be the first cue of distance. The more dry I have, the more distance I have, right? I'm gonna map the diffuse network as well. The more diffuse I have, the more depth I have, right? Then I'm gonna map the early reflections, but I'm gonna map this in the opposite direction. And lastly, I'm gonna map, it's very, very bold move. I'm gonna map the pre-delay to the same knob. And remember what I said, longer pre-delay push the sounds closer to you. So I'm gonna map this, and I'm gonna say the opposite. When I have long pre-delay, the sound is close to me, like that. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. I could even go further, and these are some additional tricks, is perceptually, the further something is from you, the smaller it becomes, and so it narrows the stereo image. Unfortunately, Ableton stock reverb is not good at stereo, but who minds? So here we're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna have like full wide when close, and maybe not fully. Let's do some little bit of mappings there, a bit of that. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue. All right. Lastly, as I said, high frequency content is also playing a role. So frequency, map, I'm going to do the opposite again. When it's closed, it's open. And the further away, the closer it goes. And I'm gonna reduce this a little bit more. So here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Now we see that we have one knob that is really working as a close far tool. What I could even do if I wanted to push things further is adding an EQ. I'm not going to use a filter, but I'm rather using a shelf, so it's a bit more gentle. And I'm going to map this to frequency map. I want the shelf to be totally open when close and slowly filter out the highs, maybe not that much, like that. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice. And as a proof of concept that those markers play together a role in the perception of distance, I'm going to unmap these from the dry wet, because this was the first strongest element. So you might say, yeah, so let's keep that at 50%, and now let's play with our proximity knob. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. So you see how they all play a role, but to be honest, and this is why I started my first video with the main aspect, which is the dry to wet ratio, the direct to reverb ratio. This, here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth. Let's take a mid position of that, is still weaker than playing just with the dry wet. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue. So you understand how the cue, the main cue is always the dry wet, but once you have a certain amount of wet, you can refine and you can adjust this position. So let's start with that. For example, here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth. I like this, for example. It creates some depth, but I still have some clarity. And now I'm going to play with the macro to refine that. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Right, so I think this is a very interesting example and exercise, even with this reverb, which isn't the nicest. And the last one, as I said, let's go for transient control. Link them. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the... So I'm level matching, but the more I control the peaks, the more highs I tame. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand the feeling of depth with those different cue markers. Here again, using a small recording of my own voice to help you understand. This is also playing with the presence, right? So I hope this clears up why direct to reverb ratio still matters the most, but how you can actually refine things and how you can use the filter. And of course, again, much filtered sound in a very small room doesn't work. Long pre-delay in a very small room doesn't work. So these different sub-cues have to work in relationship with the first space you put things in. I hope this was helpful. As always, let me know in the comments if there are some things that were unclear. And for the rest, we're going to dive even further in reverbs in the next video. So stay tuned. Be sure to leave a little like, to subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified of my next video. And see you soon for more. Take care and bye-bye.